Darth Sidious has been on record as stating that he believes that the Sith have grown past the use of a lightsaber, and that he only wields one to simply mock the Jedi that pride them so deeply. Darth Sidious's force feats need no introduction or explanation. However, with him, somebody that has this opinion of the lightsaber and lightsaber combat, to be as deadly and proficient as he is, a master of killing and a master of the blade, does require a deep, in-depth explanation. And today, acolytes of the Force and students of the galaxy, let us open up another holocron, take a look at Darth Sidious's mindset during a duel and his training under his master Darth Plagueis, and break down exactly why Darth Sidious was such a deadly and proficient lightsaber duelist, so skilled in an art that he in reality cared very little for. It is in the Darth Plagueis novel where there are a few very brief lines where Plagueis explains to Sidious the importance of lightsaber combat. Plagueis looks at his apprentice as he is drilling with the blade and says this: "Your reactions must be instantaneous and nothing less than lethal, for you are a Sith Lord and have been marked for death." Darth Sidious is one of the most skilled people to ever touch the lightsaber. He absolutely embarrassed 3 Jedi Masters and went toe-to-toe with Mace Windu and Grandmaster Yoda. Grandmaster Yoda, who he appeared to stalemate, and Mace Windu, depending on who you ask, may have actually deceived. With that said, it's incredible that Darth Sidious, a master with the blade, would later go on to tell Vader that he only used a lightsaber to mock the Jedi, was so insanely skilled, so much in fact that he butchered and dismantled Savage Opress, as well as handily defeated Maul. What's incredible about Darth Sidious's lightsaber skill and ascension to a point of power is the fact that he had very limited training partners as a young Sith apprentice. In fact, one of the only partners he had would have been his master in Plagueis, and unfortunately for us in the lore, we have very little of Darth Plagueis, other than a few lines in his book and comments from Tenebris that states that Darth Plagueis is indeed a master of all 7 forms of lightsaber combat, a comment that he would also give to his own apprentice Sidious, stating that he too was a master of all 7 forms. I think the most answers that we'll end up finding about Darth Sidious's training will have to do with his own training methods with individuals such as Maul. Unlike his later apprentices in Dooku and Vader, Maul was an uncrafted opponent and an uncrafted lightsaber wielder, so how exactly did Darth Sidious train Maul? And is this indicative of how Sidious himself was trained? One of Sidious's favorite things to do with Maul was to actually put him up against some of the most highly advanced droids that the galaxy had to offer, not to mention doing so in isolated places, leading us to infer that this is also something that Sidious likely endured himself. Even later on, it was revealed that Darth Vader himself would duel against droids, only this time he would duel against droids that he had a specific hand in creating, having implanted within them various forms of lightsaber combat that would change and adapt on the fly, similar to the likes of Grievous, and Vader did so in order to hone his craft specifically on how to take out Jedi that he was hunting at the time. It is here where we see a key difference between the Jedi and the Sith. While the Jedi most of the time practice against their masters, or other young initiates or Padawans, the Sith have no other choice. They are forced to either duel their masters specifically, or go against combat droids. But, make no mistake, the Sith do put just as much of an emphasis on lightsaber combat as the Jedi do. We are aware that the Sith utilizing droids during the Rule of Two era for their training was not a new thing, and that nearly every single one of them did utilize a droid of some time to hone their skill in lightsaber combat, leading us obviously to infer that also Darth Sidious participated in this common practice. But with that addressed, there is one individual that plays a much more crucial role in the training of Sidious than any droid ever could. We have to look at his master in Plagueis. What's unique about Darth Plagueis is he has been on record as stating that he doesn't particularly enjoy lightsaber duels nor lightsaber combat, and it is this belief within Darth Plagueis that also leads to Sidious's belief that they have grown beyond lightsabers. However, this is not to say that Darth Plagueis was not a formidable duelist at all. In fact, he was quite formidable. As stated earlier, Darth Tenebris, Plagueis' own master, stated that Plagueis had now officially completed all 7 forms of lightsaber combat, and even so, mastered all of them to near perfection. Beyond this, unlike Plagueis, it is heavily known that Darth Tenebris loved lightsaber combat and was highly proficient at it. But what about Darth Plagueis' specific feats? Well, one of the only major lightsaber encounters that Plagueis was involved in it is actually one that is highly impressive. Underneath his nose, Darth Tenebris, his own master, trained another apprentice, another Bith by the name of Darth Venomous. Venomous was specifically trained to take out Plagueis, someone who Tenebris, Plagueis' own master, secretly loathed. Unfortunately for us, the Darth Plagueis novel does not detail a ton of training about Darth Sidious. However, it does detail 3 specific events that shaped Sidious as a dark side wielder, as well as specifically a lightsaber wielder. Darth Plagueis realized the importance of Sidious and himself as the culmination of the Rule of Two. These 2 Sith Lords had a different mindset from the Sith that predated them. They were aware and ready to fulfill the prophecy of the Rule of Two and seize the galaxy, and Plagueis knew that he needed to prepare Sidious. The first of these 3 major trials occurred as a sort of hunt. During the hunt, the Sith Lords were only armed with vibroblades, not lightsabers, but this was meant to give them a distinct disadvantage. The hunt occurred on the planet known as Buoyant, whose atmosphere had been terraformed decades earlier. What resulted was a planet spinning more rapidly than is normal. What this did was cause 2 very specific things that Plagueis had in mind. The animals were far faster than is normal for the Star Wars galaxy, and their movements were more unpredictable. The exact things that Plagueis wanted to shape in Sidious. Darth Plagueis referred to this act as a summoning, and that leads us to another thing. The dark side of the Force and lightsaber combat go hand in hand perfectly. As Darth Bane and Revan explained, lightsaber combat was actually more linked to the dark side of the Force than the Jedi ever realized. They could use the dark side of the Force to literally fuel their blade, making them faster, making their movements more precise and more deadly. And this is the exact mindset that Plagueis needed to instill in Darth Sidious. And one of the major advantages that Sidious has in a duel against the Jedi, he is using the full might of the dark side of the Force as perhaps one of the most perfect avatars of the dark side to fuel his every movement, with that being the purpose of this exercise given to him by Plagueis. Through this, not only was Sidious looking for the dark side, but he also became massively attractive to the dark side itself. For Darth Sidious' second trial, the droids played another major role, as Higo Damask, or Darth Plagueis, ordered 200 battle droids to be delivered to a desolate world. This next test would occur on the world of Hypori. For this next lesson imparted on Sidious, this would be about defense, forcing the Dark Lord of the Sith, who typically give into aggression and anger and fuel their blade too offensively, to learn defense. Facing 200 battle droids as a sole man, Darth Sidious was forced to fall back onto Form 3 Sarisu and more defensive maneuvers of the blade, not to mention that the sheer number of battle droids meant that every move that Sidious made had to be flawless and near perfect, taking out as many droids as he could in quick succession. And the final test for Darth Sidious would occur on the world known as Cursed. Cursed was a world at many centuries before the fall of the Republic. The location of it was deleted from all Jedi and Republic records, and starting in the year 654 BBY, it was frequently visited by members of the Sith Order. On the occasions of their visits, the Sith sought battle with the Cursed natives in an arid plateau on part of the planet where they had landed, and engaged large numbers of them in combat in order to hone their skills. Despite the hostile intentions of the Sith, a cult centered around this periodic returns of the Sky Visitors eventually developed as a part of the culture, and the natives of the world of Cursed had prepared for centuries to battle every generation of Sith. This was Sidious's final test, to destroy a people whose only goal was to destroy the Sith themselves in a ritualistic combat. The same location where Darth Plagueis was deemed worthy by Darth Tenebris, so too would Sidious, and Sidious did so brilliantly, taking out wave after wave of enemy. The strongest, most fit, terrifying natives of the world all fell to the blade of Darth Sidious and the Sith. And with that, when Darth Plagueis states that Sidious is a true master of the blade, he is correct. And with all of this, it makes sense why Sidious would not be able to only compete with the greatest swordsman of the Jedi, but in many cases, more than once, outright embarrass them. And this is why Darth Sidious is truly one of the most formidable and skilled lightsaber wielders in all of the lore. But anyway, my friends and acolytes, what are your thoughts on this holocron? What are your thoughts on exactly how Sidious was honed as a prolific lightsaber wielder? And what are your thoughts on the evolution and training that Plagueis put Sidious through? As always, my friends, thank you so much for watching. Your support means the world to me. Reach out and force crush that subscribe button, and I hope that you have a great day.
Bye.